Alright, guys, I'm back in chapter 6 of Judges, where the header reads, Fourth period, Gideon, Tola, and Jair. Gideon becomes Israel's judge, and we'll go ahead and get right into it. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight, so the Lord handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. The Midianites were so cruel that the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, marauders from Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east would attack Israel, camping in the land and destroying crops as far away as Gaza. They left the Israelites with nothing to eat, taking all the sheep, goats, cattle, and donkeys. These enemy hordes, coming with their livestock and tents, were as thick as locusts. They arrived on droves of camels, too numerous to count, and they stayed until the land was stripped bare. So Israel was reduced to starvation by the Midianites. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. When they cried out to the Lord because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to the Israelites. He said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of slavery in Egypt. I rescued you from the Egyptians and from all who oppressed you. I drove out your enemies and gave you their land. I told you, I am the Lord your God. You must not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you now live, but you have not listened to me." Then the angel of the Lord came and sat beneath the great tree at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash of the clan of Abiezer. Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of a winepress to hide the grain from the Midianites. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "Mighty hero, the Lord is with you." "Sir," Gideon replied, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites." Then the Lord turned to him and said, "Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you." "But Lord," Gideon replied, "how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family." The Lord said to him, "I will be with you, and you will destroy the Midianites as if you were fighting against one man." Gideon replied, "If you are truly going to help me, show me a sign to prove that it is really the Lord speaking to me." "Don't go away until I come back and bring my offering to you," he answered. "I will stay here until you return." Gideon hurried home. He cooked a young goat, and with a basket of flour he baked some bread without yeast. Then, carrying the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, he brought them out and presented them to the angel, who was under the great tree. The angel of God said to him, "Place the meat and the unleavened bread on this rock, and pour the broth over it." And Gideon did as he was told. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and bread with the tip of the staff in his hand, and fire flamed up from the rock and consumed all he had brought. And the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he cried out, "O sovereign Lord, I'm doomed. I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." "It is all right," the Lord replied. "Do not be afraid. You will not die." And Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and named it Yahweh Shalom, which means "the Lord is peace." The altar remains in Ophrah, in the land of the clan of Abiezer, to this day. I struggle with these names, guys. That's all right. That night the Lord said to Gideon, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one that is 7 years old. Pull down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole standing beside it. Then build an altar to the Lord your God here on this hilltop sanctuary, laying the stones carefully. Sacrifice the bull as a burnt offering on the altar, using as fuel the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord had commanded. But he did it at night, because he was afraid of the other members of his father's household and the people of the town. Early the next morning, as the people of the town began to stir, someone discovered that the altar of Baal had been broken down and that the Asherah pole beside it had been cut down. In their place a new altar had been built, and on it were the remains of the bull that had been sacrificed. The people said to each other, "Who did this?" And after asking around and making a careful search, they learned that it was Gideon, the son of Joash. "Bring out your son," the men of the town demanded of Joash. "He must die for destroying the altar of Baal and for cutting down the Asherah pole." But Joash shouted to the mob that confronted him, "Why are you defending Baal? Will you argue his case? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If Baal truly is a god, let him defend himself and destroy the one who broke down his altar." From then on, Gideon was called Jerubbaal, which means "let Baal defend himself," because he broke down Baal's altar. Soon after, the armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east formed an alliance against Israel and crossed the Jordan, camping in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon with power. He blew a ram's horn as a call to arms, and the men of the clan of Abiezer came to him. He also sent messengers throughout Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, summoning their warriors, and all of them responded. Then Gideon said to God, "If you are truly going to use me to rescue Israel, as you promised, prove it to me in this way. I will put a wool fleece on the threshing floor." I almost said threshing. On the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you are going to help me rescue Israel as you promised. And that is just what happened. When Gideon got up early the next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out a whole bowlful of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Please don't be angry with me, but let me make one more request. Let me use the fleece for one more test. This time, let the fleece remain dry while the ground around it is wet with dew." So that night, God did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. And that's the end of chapter 6, guys. And so, what really sticks out for me in this chapter is the reflection of Gideon when he's asking God, "Why have you abandoned us? Why have you done all these things?" The absence of his knowledge of his own family's deceit and the treachery of knowing that there's a altar to Baal and the Asherah pole within an area that he lives, recognizing that even the people within that area, he had to do those things in secret, and he's asking God why he's not involved. I think that that's the boldness and just the absolute audacity that we have as people. That's the flesh. Once a generation has been removed, however shortly that timeline is, once the expectation of God has been removed, we will fall so fast. And you see the spurts of a handful of years, 7 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. That is not a long amount of time, especially considering that they were slaves for 400. And as soon as they were removed from God, all the miracles that they saw, they were so ready to throw it all away for convenience. And for Gideon to reflect on those things, and then for him to go through and explain, say, hey, he had to do these things against a Baal, a lesser god than the one that they're following. He had to do those things in hiding for fear of retaliation of the people. And so I think that that's so crazy. It's so crazy to see how quickly we fall as a people, even individuals, let alone an entire society, how quickly we fall without God at the center. And that blows my mind, especially because there's several instances where God just starts fresh. He's like, no, we're flooding the place. Sodom and Gomorrah, the Tower of Babel. Say, no, you guys aren't doing the right thing. Immediate divide. Figure it out. You don't want to do it with me? Figure it out. And we continue to do it. And it's written down. Even he even knew of the miracles that had been done leaving Egypt. And society still dissipated. It still went with the wind. The second he wasn't at the heart of society and in the hearts of everybody, it's immediate fall from grace. and they wonder why all these other clans and all these other enemies come and take them over. They're not even doing what they were told. And they know, they're aware. Because he even said that. He simply replied to, hey, no, I know that we've had our issues. Where's God now? You know, all those miracles that happened in Egypt. That knowledge still exists, yet they still forego him for other gods. So I think it's crazy the boldness that people have, absent of God, which is the craziest part. And so that's my reflection of chapter 6 of Judges. I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. So on that note, have a good night. God bless. I love you. Jesus loves you. And I'll be back for chapter 7 of Judges, where the header reads, Gideon defeats the Midianites. And so, on that note, have a good night and God bless, guys. I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 7 of Judges. Have a good night.